Hello, everyone. How are you? How are you, Jean?
Hello, Federico. Doing good. And you?
As good as the market conditions allow, uh,
Yeah,
welcome to Kleros Community Call of Wednesday, 18th of February. I mean, we've been through worse, right, Jean?
yeah. I think the 2018, I think, situation was a lot more critical, right? So yeah,
I, um, I sometimes tell people. I mean, when we went to the Osaka DevCon conference in 2019, we were like Kleros. This was I think October, November 2019. I mean, we were like 2 months away from a bankruptcy at Kleros. You know, but I mean, here we are. We still surviving and we are still building stuff. So like this is great. And yeah, so that is the way. When you have to escape, you have to escape forward. That's life.
yeah.
So
This is a bear market for ants for Kleros, the Kleros perspective. Yeah.
good. Well, we have a bunch of things today that we can share. I will continue with this little series we are doing of Kleros philosophy. We called it. I mean, maybe there's a better name for that, but we can explain a bit where the ideas of Kleros come from. So last week, I explained a bit about digital revolution. The previous episode was about the Moore's law. It was about Tim Berners-Lee, start of the internet, the start of the World Wide Web, and all of this new technology explosion that we have in the late 20th century. Since the 1970s and 80s, and the industry of personal computing, and then we have connectivity. Well, this also creates like an economic revolution, and it's useful to go with the framework from this Austrian economist called Joseph Schumpeter, who has this idea that creative destruction is this essential fact about capitalism. So he studied the history of capitalism over like many decades and centuries, and well, he observed that we had like different waves of innovation and entrepreneurship, where you had like a number of new innovators that came with new things. They destroyed old industries, and then a new industry came, and this happened again and again since the capitalism took root in the world. So first it was this wave of water power and textiles, and then in mid 19th century we had like a wave about coming from steam, rail, and steel. Then 1900s we had electricity and chemicals, and of course cars. Then the fourth wave was about petrochemicals, aviation, and electronics. And well, of course, that one was not described by Schumpeter because he was already dead, but it continued the cycle. And then the last one we had was about digital network software, and this is the one we are going to focus a bit now. Maybe the big representative of this wave of economic disruption, of the innovation of our time, of the software revolution, is Mark Andreessen, who was the creator of web browser. I think it was the first web browser called Mosaic, and then I think it was renamed to Netscape. And after that, Mark Andreessen became a venture capitalist, and he has this very famous article that he published in the Wall Street Journal titled "Why Software is Eating the World." And his thesis in this article is that lots of activities that were previously done in an analogic world by people doing work starting to go to transform into software companies. So first one was not the first one, but one of important was the photographic industry. You can see how this creative destruction happened with the world of film cameras and films and digital cameras taking over. And see how fast actually the sales of digital cameras fall after people start switching to smartphones to take pictures. So it's easy to see how this evolved in the context of the number of photos taken in different formats. Then the newspapers, it was a steady growing industry that peaked around 2001, and then it kind of fell off a cliff, and we had then a new players like Google, like Facebook, making revenue based on digital platforms. Amazon starting to eat bookstores in the 90s and then early 2000s, and also e-commerce taking over most of the retail sales quite fast. And at some point, Amazon became as large as all of its competitors from the retail market together. Look, in 2016, it was already larger than Walmart, Target, and most of the other retailers. This is why Jeff Bezos, changed a bit his attitude from a guy who just was selling books to this like a kind of Bruce Willis of a retail and sold whatever he wanted. And then you also see this same pattern in the world of hotels. You had this idea of sharing economy applied to hotels. You had Airbnb taking over the hotel chains, and so you get the picture. So in the 1990s, late 1990s, we had this idea of the Web 1.0. What happens typically when a new technology comes is that it in the period of adoption, it kind of looks a bit like the previous wave of technology. So this is why Web 1.0 was a bit like when the internet started, when the computer science and the personal computing started. The way in which developers sought to organize information was through something that users would already know, that was like files and folders. So this is Windows in the early days. There was no need actually to use files and folders, because for a computer it makes no difference. But for people to understand what's going on in a computer and what the computer does, it was like a good metaphor to think in terms of files and folders. So a bit the Web 1.0 was the previous paradigm, but brought into online. So it was you had like a company, like a newspaper company, that was doing the same newspaper as they did before, with journalists, editors, and that. But instead of just putting it on paper, they would put it online. But there was a structured organization where you had the process worked more or less than as it was previously, right? So this was 1.0. And this is the new version of the newspaper industry. Was very similar to the previous one, but online. And then came 2001, 9/11, and this was the day where we saw something actually changing in the following sense. So I started my career working in online media. It was after the 9/11, but I got to interact with a lot of people who actually were in the newsroom on that day. It was in particular, I was working at a newspaper from Argentina called Clarín. These people, these editors, these journalists that were working on 9/11, they told me that something like the following. So they said, okay, 9/11 is a day where we could feel that something was changing in the information era. Because so there was the attack on the Twin Towers, and then, journalists and media wanted to inform from there. But the problem is that, as you can imagine, the air traffic was closed. So, there was no way to send reporters to New York. So you could only make your news program with people who were already there. And what happened is that people, Argentinians who were casually living in New York, or they were vacationing in New York, started sending news of what was happening by email or by telephone to the editors of the newspaper, and then they would just upload it onto the website. So was first time that at a massive scale the newspaper started to rely like heavily or almost exclusively on information created by citizens in order to well produce the content for the website that they had. So this was the first. It was the first transition to something that would be called later like Web 2.0, and what happened after 2001 and years later. So it's that we also, because of the continuation of Moore's law, microchips, computing becomes faster, smaller, etc. We see this idea of context where smartphone users are everywhere. Everyone has a smartphone. Everyone has a small computer in their pocket. Even people who are quite poor. This is a photo taken in a favela from Brazil. It's a very poor neighborhood. And the interesting thing is that these kids, they have almost the same phone that the founder of Google has. There's not a really important difference in the power of their phone and the founder of Google. So it's like everyone has kind of access to similar technology because of how it becomes cheaper, because of Moore's law, etc. And also this means that people start spending more and more and more and more time online on different websites and interacting on the internet, right? So, and this put all together results in what we call Web 2.0, that was became like bigger in the mid 2000s, in 2005, 6, which meant the rise of the crowds into the online world. So Web 2.0 was about empowering people. It was about anyone can participate in the world economy. Anyone can be part. Anyone can have a blog. Anyone can reach with their ideas anywhere. Anyone in the world. The Time magazine at some point, I think it was 2005, put the person of the year was the internet. People who were online were the people who were the main characters of the information age, and this was also embedded in new models of information management, like Wikipedia and Encyclopedia, built on collective intelligence. It was not Encarta. Encarta was the old model of 1.0, the old model of traditional encyclopedias brought into the Web 1.0, because it was the same model to build the encyclopedia. It was just an encyclopedia that you could see online, but that was built by like a team of editors, writers, etc. Wikipedia brought a new model in the sense that anyone could contribute, and people were skeptical at the beginning because how can you just make an encyclopedia based on any anonymous guy from the internet just contributing? And what Wikipedia showed us was that if you put together like a good mechanism, it can totally work. And it was clear at some point that people stopped using the old Encarta on the old Britannica encyclopedia, and they switched to this new model because it was about getting the right mechanism. So some of the books that promoted this new way of living was very famous. Here Comes Everybody by Clay Shirky, Wikinomics by Don Tapscott and Anthony Williams. So, and others like The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil and Abundance by Peter Diamandis. Both of them were the co-founders of Singularity University. So I would say the peak of the Silicon Valley transformation and the optimism about the future of the world, of the digital era, the internet connecting everyone, they create this university called Singularity University. It was an idea by these two gentlemen that I just mentioned, Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis, and they put this university into a place in Mountain View called NASA Ames. It was a NASA headquarters, and it was their goal was to bring together like innovators from different industries to have them like interact and maybe build innovative projects that would potentially be transformative for the future of the world. I was really lucky that I was picked in 2016 for spending there. Was there for 5 months. And here it's me, a young version of Federico. I was already working on dispute resolution, decentralized justice. This is what I went to do there. Well, I took some pictures with, the astronauts. I took some pictures with the space shuttle. This is the classroom where we used to spend our day. So we took lectures from like 9 a.m. to like 11 p.m. In this classroom with other 80 people from different countries doing innovation in biotechnology, nanotechnology, AI, blockchain, healthcare, water management, electricity. Well, you name it. There was someone who knew about some of those technologies. There was extremely highly competitive program, and this was all funded by Google. People did not pay to go to the program. If you were selected, Google would pay your stay there. So it was a really, really great place to be, and I got to play with really cool technologies. I built this little robot with my hands. I built and launched this little rocket. Played with like VR and also with brain and interface with tools. So this green thing you see there is like a little robot where you move it with your brain waves. And this is my graduation ceremony, and here I am between the two founders, Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis. This is my little diploma of Singularity. And what Singularity brought was a view of technology, I guess, very positive for the world. It was the idea of so you put technology into something, and it will be better, and it will, help us, and it will solve all the problems. This was the spirit of the times. And when I was there, I was like, okay, we have seen this before. This is a bit also the ideas that we had, that humans had in the 19th century, when industrial revolution and then capitalism on the rise, and then there was this philosophy called positivism, founded by Auguste Comte, and it was about also technology, science, and progress, and view of an unlimited progress. And you could have I was also like as a teenager a reader of like Jules Verne. So it was about this idea of these new technologies, flight, and also this submarines and the age of exploration. And even Jules Verne has this book about going to the moon, which 19th century was really forward thinking. So it was a bit like that spirit that you could sense in the air in Silicon Valley in general, and also in Singularity, which was like as I call it sometimes, the Silicon Valley of Silicon Valley. And as but there was another phase into it. You have this painting by Seurat, but you have people know mostly the one on the right, but Seurat painted this in a time that was also 19th century. So for some people, it was a time of progress, innovation, technology, and improvement. But there was on the other side of the river, you had Seurat painted the other people who were seeing the lucky ones from the poor side, the working class, and they didn't have so much fun as the rich had. And it was a bit what ended up happening later, after the Web 2 revolution became big and took over the world, because there was a bit of a broken promise of Silicon Valley. This guy you see on screen is Jaron Lanier. He wrote this book called Who Owns the Future, where he explains a bit disappointment and also the broken promise of these technology platforms, the big tech, that came to promise lots of things and didn't deliver on anything. Jaron Lanier uses a metaphor for these big tech companies. He called them siren servers. Why siren servers? Well, because you might remember Ulysses and the sirens. Ulysses was coming back from Troy, and then he wants to go back to his hometown in Ithaca, and he goes with his sailors, and one of the challenges he has to overcome is this island where the sirens lived, and the sirens were these creatures that had this very beautiful voice, and they used to sing to attract the sailors, and then when they got close to the island, they would like attack them and kill them and eat them. So Ulysses wanted to hear the sound of the sirens, but not fall prey to not be killed. So what he did is like he asked his sailors to tie him to the mast of the ship and put on them the wax in their ears so they would not listen to the song, but and he would. And so this is the idea of why John Lanier uses this metaphor for big tech, because he says that big tech companies are a bit like sirens in the sense that they also have this song of seduction, of trying to bring us to their ecosystem with like free stuff. I mean, free products, free email, free content, and everything. At some point, when we are there, I mean, we are just eaten inside. So it's like, as I say in Silicon Valley, if you are not paying for the product, then it's because you are the product. And all of these Web2 platforms that promise to bring us this innovation and this access to the world did that, but at a very high cost, because they started to build huge companies that became almost global monopolies that connected different type of users. YouTube, you connect people who produce content with people who consume content. This is one of them, and then you have the intermediary collecting like big taxis. Then Uber has drivers and passengers, and then you have this big platform that also collects big fees for people who want to use the network. Facebook at some point became so large that it was even hard to understand what it was connecting with what, because it covers so many different topics. So, but all of this Web2 economy was built on this architecture of people or users on the sides, and a central server that owned or monopolized the network, and because of that privileged position could collect like high fees for itself. Okay, so this was a bit of the disappointment that was produced by Silicon Valley. And one thing that these companies learned quite fast is that if you take a job and you break it into small pieces, then you will get people to do it for free. This was one of the main discoveries that Silicon Valley did. And I mean, think of the Michelin guide that was published by this company, by Michelin, and then it used to be hired to contract lots of writers to go to restaurants and then to write a review of the restaurant. And then these people would be making like middle-class jobs by being writers. So, but this was at some point like disrupted by this new model of Yelp, where you have a crowdsourced crowd that is going to make the reviews, and nobody is paid in Yelp. So that is how lots of jobs were destroyed. And then in the media, you used to have like people who were doing content, journalists, and etc. This was like replaced by people crowdsourcing content, posting content on these platforms, and then nobody was paid. So this also resulted in this situation of lots of new old jobs distracted by user-generated content that was not rewarded. This is why some people, for example, Metallica were against YouTube as they saw it as a devil, and it was destroying the record industry, where like artists would not be paid for their work. And all of these companies also had this dynamics. So they started being trying to get as many users as possible, like the sirens, and trying to give you free stuff for you to go there. And after they reach so network effects, they start to increase the fees, and they start to charge a few for the use. And yeah, I mean, so, and you are like a bit of prisoner, because all of the network effects are in that network, and you cannot go anywhere, because if you go to some other place, I mean, there's nobody there, so you have no other choice than just to pay these very high fees, or if you want to call them taxes, to these companies. And also, if you were to build a company or a product based on this network, I mean, at some point you could be disrupted because of a decision made by the company or the management. You could just lose access to the network because they just stopped the API or whatever. So this became, this big companies becoming like very, very big and very, very powerful in terms of the users and people who would build products on top of them. And the worst thing is that the traffic on the internet started to become like very concentrated into like a few big tech companies. So you used to have like lots of different little websites around, and then this consolidates into just a few big platforms, and this big platform becoming a bit like virtual empires, if you want to call them that way, because they start to do some of the activities that were previously done by, by nation states. For example, like if you are a user in Facebook or in Twitter or wherever, they give you like an ID card. It's an identity for system for you. I mean, you have a profile in the platform, and this profile is like your ID in a country, and then you can use this profile as a kind of a passport to travel your way through the internet. And this is how you sign in, with your passport issued by the Facebook empire. And also, of course, because of the algorithms, they control your feed, so they control what you read, and you control the content. They control the content you have access to. They even start to intermediate in like buy and sell, like marketplace transactions. And then at some point, they even thought about launching their own currency. And this is interesting because when Facebook started this project of Libra, their own cryptocurrency, they started to face like a very big opposition by the established actors, nation states. The US, they decided, okay, this is going too far, and so there was a big tension that is ultimately what resulted in like Facebook, discontinuing this idea of their own currency. But it's because they became so large that you have this power struggle between the online and the offline worlds. At some point, people started thinking that Zuckerberg looked a bit more like a king than as an entrepreneur, because he is like a lord of a big jurisdiction where millions of users work, live, and socialize. And he and the management team, they are like they make the rules. They appoint the moderators, so they make all of the decisions. So at some point, it's like a country. It's like a kingdom with an emperor who makes all of the decisions. And it's funny enough that Zuckerberg is like quite. He looks a lot like Philip IV from Spain. If you go to the Museo del Prado, you will see Philip IV. Lots of painting by Velázquez. So it's like a politically. It started to look a bit. Like big empires rather than just technology companies. Okay, we'll stop here for this episode, and for the next one we will have the rise of AI, and you will see that already looked like bad enough. When you put AI into it, it like looks like way worse, and almost the perfect storm. Okay, let's stop here now. Hello, Jim. Do you like it?
Yeah, really like it. I think that this Jaron Lanier book makes a lot more sense now, right? With AI and how things are progressing. I think this book has almost 10 years, right? And
I think it was like from 2013 maybe. It was before I went to Singularities, because I already knew it. Maybe 2013, and he there's a bunch of also talks by him at Stanford. I mean, he's like a crazy guy, with the rastas, and also he plays, the musical instruments, but like weird, like Indian instruments, or I don't even know the name, but like, and he was the creator of VR. I mean, one of the pioneers of VR in the 80s, and he's in this book he explains a bit about this early version of the World Wide Web that was engineered by a different guy called Ted Nelson. You had the last episode we spoke of Tim Berners-Lee, and the World Wide Web and the hypertext. So this was a different architecture to another proposal by Ted Nelson that was called Xanadu project. So Xanadu was the original, way of connecting on the information on the internet with backlinks. So you had like a way to track all of the information to the original creator, and this was potentially a way in which you could track IP rights, where people would monetize content that they produced, something that you could not do on the big tech ecosystem. And this guy, Ted Nelson, some people say his architecture was too visionary for the time, so it was not implemented. It was too expensive. So what we got was big tech. But interestingly, we had one of our podcasts, Mark Miller, as a guest. But Mark Miller was part of the Xanadu project in the 1970s. So look at the type of people we bring you to Kleros, for the podcast.
Yeah. I think I need to rewatch that episode. And I think it really feels like the world right now is kind of separating getting divided into these big AI companies. And I think maybe 15 years ago it did not felt like that yet, and now here we are, right?
It's like I guess it's like a drug addict. The early stages of the addiction might be have some pleasure, but the later stages, it starts to look not great. So a bit like you could put it in that way, because it's not a conspiracy thing. It's like this platform actually brought lots of utility, communication. You could connect with anyone in the world almost for free. You had access to education, information. Nobody will take that from them. That's amazing. They built infrastructure that was super important, that helped people a lot. But the type of architecture in which this was built had this problem of ending up in kind of big global monopolies, right? So that was the problem with this type of architecture.
Great. Well, I think we have a couple of updates. I think maybe the most important update that we can share today is something that someone from the community already got. It looks like we have someone monitoring the commits on the GitHub. Recently, JB deployed the stable version of V2, and this was done after I think the final draft from the auditing company. We need to have JB in the chat maybe next week to talk more about this. But basically, they're doing some of the final tests before this stable release that was audited. There will be live, and then we'll have a couple of audit rounds, like community audit rounds, right? And then the blocks that we have right now will be progressively be removed. Right now, there are only V1 jurors and people that participated on testnet and a registered group of humanity can participate on the V2 beta. And then we will start removing the limits moving forward.
Yeah, so it's really impressive to see this coming together, because this V2 on which we have worked for I would say almost not 10 years, but like a lot, is potentially becoming the legal system that is going to help and work and resolve disputes of all of the new platforms that are going to arise, hopefully in the next era of the internet, if we are right. So it's kind of going to be like the Republican transition from the code of law of the empire to the republic. So it's really impressive because for us the V2 is the end game. I mean, we don't have a V3 coming. This is going to be improved by new dispute kits, new selection processes, and new ways to pick people. But that's it. So it's if we are right about what we are building, I mean, this will become like a very important piece of infrastructure for the future of the internet. So it's a bit of a really important moment for both for Kleros and for the internet at large. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. Some people would say, but let's stay positive. So now we already finished the audit with Sartora, with the auditor that we hire for this task, and they did a great job. They did lots of discovered some bugs. I think not one critical bug was found. Some of them were like high severity, but none of them like critical. So that's awesome. And then we will have in the so we already went through corrections, and they reviewed the corrections, and they basically agreed with what we did. So the report is going to be published very soon, and then that is a bit ends their work, and then we are doing again another round of audits ourselves. So that's a really important thing. I mean, this is an historic moment, I would say. Don't know. We need to add something else about this, Gene?
No, just that the one interesting thing is that once V2 launches, V2 stable launches, we already have integrations that are waiting for it, and they're waiting for the capabilities that the V2 allows. So I think this is also interesting. So what we are doing with V2, it has a purpose, right? And it will be very clear right away.
I mean, it's the end of a moment. I mean, you could argue to some extent that that the Kleros original vision is complete now. I mean, because we delivered a protocol that is you can call it subjective oracle if you want. You can call it dispute resolution. You can call it legal system, decentralized justice, whatever you want to call it. And then this started by like a very simple like shelling game, shelling coin mechanism with no identity, with only like an economic game. Now it is like a fully fledged system where you have identity, soulbound tokens, you have reputation, you have like most dispute kits are covering most of the potential use cases that we might want from this. So it's to me, it's like a end of a really important step on what we are doing. So good job, Federico.
No, the meme from Obama getting the medal.
Yeah. Giving himself, yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, what do we have, Gene, for today? You have, I think, Fortunato.
We have Fortunato next. Hey, Fortunato.
Hello.
Do you have any medal to put on yourself for past
I have this. I guess it's the best use case.
Tell us about curation. What's going on with curation?
Sure. I give some quick updates from last week. We added new features to the Scout 2.0 beta, from selecting date range, seeing list parameters, for example, how much is the bounty for a specific list, what's the relevant court, the challenge period. We improved also the UI in general, and we will update the beta probably in 1-2 days, so you can already test it. Other than this, you may have heard that we are working on new lists on Curate, and the one that we are now prioritizing is about bulk submissions for Scout. We had several inquiries from third parties wanting to submit tokens, addresses in bulk, so in huge number, and We are now working on the technical aspects, so on how to make them submit in a single submission and still, of course, keeping the safety that we have on the wall curate. And the last and third update is related to agents. 2 weeks ago, we had a focused call on agent economy and ERC 8004. As you know, in Kleros, we had plenty of test cases on courts, research and talks by Federico and William. We tested products like Mirrorfall. Also on Curate, we have users autonomously using bot and AI to submit or to vet submission. So we are quite well integrated. What we are working now is also on a new list for specifically for AI agent and related to the ERC 8004 protocol. We are quite advanced with one, which is a sort of which mirrors Scout, but for AI agents. And we already have a POC we shared internally this Monday, and probably next week we will share with the community, and you will see this POC. It integrates not just Curate, but also escrow and reality, but it's quite cool. And we will show you in the next community call or in the other one. So yeah, these are the main highlights from last week.
Thank you, Fortunato. Let's go to who is coming now, Marcos. Yeah, Marcos. Hello, Marcos.
Hey, how's it going? Good afternoon here. So
good. Tell us.
Yes, from Kleros Enterprise, we have a few updates. In first place, last week we have a call with the Salta government. Salta is a province in Argentina, in the north of Argentina. And we were in touch with a proposal similar to the one that we have with Mendoza, or that we are starting to work in other jurisdictions, San Martin and Junín since the last year. We're talking with some different part of the government, and we are going to have some new calls during the next weeks. Then we have a new call with Lemon. There was a case that was published in LinkedIn. I think, Jean, you didn't mention this for the moment, right?
No, not yet. Yeah, we did like a case study of Lemon for the Kleros Enterprise LinkedIn account, and I think it's one of the best materials that we have, covering a particular use case, because it's very the business case for it is gets very clear from this material, and we are trying to attract people to follow the account and follow our channels by giving them the high quality materials. And the next month we'll be doing another case study, and we will try to get one per month.
Yes. So Lucia was working a lot with this article or with this case study. And so another update is that, related to what you mentioned before, Jean, about the B2, we have some updates, and the new court is almost ready. So because of this, we talked with the people of Junín. They are going to be the ones sending us the first cases that are going to be working in this specific court, where only some kind of jurors are going to be able to stake. At the beginning, lawyers, and then some other jurors that have experience in Kleros. This is going to be the same court that is going to be working with the companies that are going to be using this figure, and we are we're in advanced talks, let's say, with a company that is going to be using this. And the idea for Junín is to start sending cases for the week, in 2 weeks. So now we are talking again with the jurors, so that first they receive a new token to stake in the court, and then they stake in the court to be eligible for these new cases. Then we have some other calls with other companies. One in specific is very interested in Kleros Enterprise, so we are going to be receiving, we're going to be giving new updates here, but they are really interested in our service, and it's an important centralized exchange outside Argentina. So, yeah, those are the main updates from the meeting.
Thank you, Marcos. And I guess last but not least, the great William. Hello, William. How are you?
Hey, everybody. I'm good.
Good. I mean, what do you think of being part of the development of the greatest court of the internet of the future?
I'm honored to be a part of this, to continue to be a part of this. There are lots of great research problems. As someone, like fundamentally, I come from being a mathematician background, and there's been like tons of fun research over the years. It's this whole question of like, how do you recreate sort of a Web 2 experience in your sort of decision-making process when like, unlike in Web 2, you have some kind of central authority that can just sort of intervene ad hoc and like correct problems. That's like, oh, this like thing isn't resolving correctly. Like this person is attacking this. There's a DDoS attack, whatever. It can just fix all those things like ad hoc. Here, how do you design robust systems that have all that built in advance? The bar is much higher. So the math that goes into proving things like that is fun.
Also, I mean, as I always say, it's not for what we do. It's also not only making a good smart contracts so they're not hacked, but also having all this be like perceived as legitimate by users who, I mean, will need to use this for resolving cases, resolving disputes. So it's like it's tricky, right? I mean, a lot of the variables you have to consider.
Yeah, totally.
Well, tell us a bit about updates from your side.
Yeah, so I mean, now I'm continuing to think about different kinds of research topics that will go into future dispute kits. Like on some level, I see sort of like kind of like an expanding circles kind of thing in terms of like what dispute kits will handle well, how many cases we have, where we have the research sort of done and ready to go for dispute kits that will handle like most cases like quite well. But then, like as we add like more and more specialized kinds of like logics, we can handle edge cases, that much better. And you're always getting like the extra edge case. And particularly the thing that I'm thinking about like right now is how do you handle cases where you have kind of clone options so that like you might have non-binary disputes we're particularly worried about like if one of the parties controls like is proposing what are the options going to be to eventual jurors. For example, you have some kind of escrow dispute where Alice and Bob like agree in their contract on like what the options of the jurors will eventually be. How do you avoid the selection of options from having too much of a role in the results? You want to avoid like vote splitting effects. And there's lots of classical research in the social choice theory literature on how to pick voting systems that handle clone options well. So when you add like a similar option that's like the same as options you already have, that doesn't change the result. But when you add in economic incentives, that like changes stuff. So I've been thinking a lot about that. And now this will, handle like those extra sort of like edge cases where, you worry about like, like is the selection of outcomes going to like influence how people vote? You can be that much more secure and not having to worry about that.
So we could say, William, that at the moment, I mean, what we have developed for V2 covers, I mean, like 90% of the requirements from different use cases for dispute resolution.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, like the BD people may have a better sense of what the clients are asking for, but on some level, there's like a chicken and egg thing here, where if the whatever dispute kit doesn't handle like a type of case yet very well, like you're not going to realize that it might actually be like a big thing. But yeah, like the vast majority, like most cases in the the real world, I'd say either binary or have numeric options. And we have the current system handles binary options quite well. Numeric options, we have this, research ready to go. And then on these sort of like non-binary discrete choices, like if I have someone who's been abusive on social media, like, do I give them a warning, a ban? It's like, these are kind of discrete options. It doesn't really make sense to attach, like, you can't necessarily say like this option is like, like 2 times as severe as this option. So in some supplements, like, it's not just like a number question, it's non-binary. You get into these like other social choice theory problems, and already we have like good research ready to go for most of those too. But as you really get into the weeds, like, you can always be a little better.
Well, that's amazing. Jean, do you have any question for William? No comment.
No, I think this is it. I have one question. Do you think it will be necessary to write a second yellow paper after we finished what was written on the first one?
Maybe. I mean, like, we could certainly add stuff. Like a lot of stuff in the yellow paper. So ultimately, like, the yellow paper laid out like, several models for how to do things, and and like trade-offs. And we still like think some of those models are like the right thing to do, and we're going to build dispute kits around them. But like in some cases, we found like other ideas that, like, we could add to the list. Where we had 3 models before, maybe now we have 5 or something. So we certainly could add to the yellow paper. Maybe not like yellow paper 2.0, but like maybe yellow paper 1.2 or something.
Great.
Good. I will see, I guess, also what type of attacks and challenges the AI agents come up with. So okay, William. Yeah, thank you very much. I guess that's it for today. Jean, do we have anything else that you want to comment?
I think, well, maybe just mention that we will be launching a project related to Futurkey probably next week. So if you're interested in that, come to our next week community call. There's also a deep funding experiment that is live, and anyone can participate. If you're interested in that, it's a good start also.
Okay, well, thank you guys for coming, and I guess we will see you next Monday for the Spanish call, and then next Wednesday for the English call again. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.